everybody, and welcome to episode number 8, the grand finale of the Let's Learn Master of Puppets guitar series. It's been a long, winding journey of giant batteries that power the Master of Puppets, which ultimately gave rise to things that should not be, which, by the way, just the mere sight of will land you in a sanitarium. Oh, and let's not forget the battle cries of the disposable heroes, a eulogy put forth by the Leper Messiah, leading to endless wars in outer space, more specifically around the constellation of Orion. All of these events ultimately led to the creation and formation of Damage Incorporated, salesmen of all things death-related. Now, the only way to defeat such an evil corporation is to destroy it from the inside out, through every single note, every single time change, every single chord progression, in a full, detailed musical analysis of Damage Inc. by Metallica. Let's hit it. Damage Inc. is a hard and heavy thrash tune, for the most part. Although most of it contends as some of the most blistering and aggressive material of Metallica's entire career, it starts out as anything but that. The intro gives us a nice glimpse into the serenity and peace that was once commonplace amongst the world population, prior to the incorporation of those damn damage doers. Now, I believe that Damage Incorporated contracted bassist Cliff Burton to compose music that would instill a feeling of calm and passivity within the world populace. Now, this would be exceptionally useful for when they became more powerful, causing endless wars and slowly eroding the freedoms and liberties that people were once accustomed to. And since people are so calm and passive, there would be no reason to fight because there is no reason to panic. There's no reason to suspect that anything is wrong. For now, of course. And when that time comes, you better believe that the dreaded Razorback, summoned by James Hetfield's blistering guitar riffs, will leave you blindsided in a state of absolute ruin as it destroys everything in its path. But before that, let's explore the beauty behind Cliff Burton's madness in this introduction. Cliff's bass intro utilizes a few different effects to really bring the idea to life. The first of which is a distortion pedal, perhaps a big muff, which he was known to use commonly. Not set too high, just a little bit of grit to give it some aggression, but a very peaceful and passive aggression, which, by the way, is a bit oxymoronic if you ask me. The other effects we need are a delay pedal for that nice call and response effect, that little you hit the note and then it happens again. It gives a little bit of wetness, a little bit of color. And we also need a volume pedal to simulate the sound of a crying whale mourning the loss of its freedom. And by those powers combined, we could recreate the hypnotic effect necessary to completely pacify anyone in its vicinity. The harmonic structure only utilizes 5 different chords that swell in and out for the first entire minute of the tune. This introduction deals with chords that go between D and G major, okay? But we don't start on either of those notes, which makes it kind of confusing. So let me take you through those chords. Starts on an A, then goes to a G, comes up to a B minor, back down to A, and then finally goes to D. Well, let me break down what's happening there. The A chord is actually the 5 chord, okay? So we're starting deceptively on something that's not 1, it's 5. And then goes to the 4 chord, which is G, to the 6 chord, which is the relative minor, that could be interchanged with the key center, back to the 5 chord, until it finally resolves very, very nicely up to D. And it sounds so beautiful when we finally get there. But then we go right back to B minor. Let me throw a curveball here. A C chord. Alright, now I'll get to that in a second. Goes back to a G. Alright, now that C chord, all it is just a 4 chord to the G. Ready? G, A, B, C. 4th chord. Right? Resolving back to the 1 chord, which then goes right back to A. Okay, so a very strange sequence of chords, but it works out perfectly when you're just doing volume swells and creating some atmosphere like Cliff Burton is trying to do. Now with all that in mind, let's listen to how the man himself plays this part, and we'll outline the chords as we're moving along. And right during that last E minor swell, the mothership floats over the cityscape, getting closer and closer and louder until we hit the max dynamic, loading up the artillery for a Hetfield induced plasmatic beam right to your skull. These staccato half notes help to set the tone for the rest of the song. And they start on an E5 power chord going to an F, just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, triple it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, triple it. Alright, so we're hitting that F with triplets to come back down to E, which is going to be our root note. And the F is the flat 2 in this case, a very weighted interval. Alright, so it's very heavy. The flat 2 wants to immediately come back down to that 1 and not really hang there for too long. So, listen again real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, triple and boom. Immediately after that one, we increase the tempo and we go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, triple it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, just all straight quarter notes on the ending there. So one more time real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, triple it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the accelerando at the end helps ease us into what I was saying before. We are getting into the most intense riff potentially of Metallica's entire history, and this bridges the gap perfectly between Cliff's beautiful intro and James Hetfield's incredibly violent artillery storm. So let's check that out. An incredibly chaotic thrash riff from Mr. Hetfield. Let's check out the notes and the positions first. We come in on some ultra tight E palm mutes through a slurry of 16th notes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. See that? Alright, so that's the very first part, so let's break it down a little bit. You have a full measure of E's, right? Just with this E palm muting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then on that next measure, right on the downbeat, you have to hit an A right on it, okay? Now that starts the next sequence, which is on an A chord. So, that's on the 5th fret of the E for the root note, and then a 7th fret of the A and the D on top. But with this. Alright, so you're going from a perfect 4th, right here, which creates the power chord, E and A, and then you have a tritone right after that. That's E and B flat. Alright, that creates a flat 9 interval on top of what we're playing. Incredibly dissonant. Alright, and you gotta do that 3 times, just like that. Alright, now here it is slow again. A, E, A, E. Then right that one, we have to go and hit to F sharp like this. And you have to hit that perfect fourth interval on the downbeat. That's fourth and fourth on the A and the D, alright? And then the same amount of time before we go right to G. And then we have to play that little pattern there, which mimics the same rhythm of the on the A, okay? So we're down on G, we're doing this. Perfect fourth once again, just like all of these, right? This one's just on G, but we have to resolve it like this. Alright, so pay attention to that again. We got the fifth on the A and the D like this, going to fifth and fourth. So we're actually resolving that perfect fourth to a major third. It actually sounds really nice when you play it like that, isolated, but since it's in context with everything else, it's very chaotic sounding, and you can barely make it out either with the guitar tone and the drums and everything thrashing about. So we actually start with all 16ths on that first E like this. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and a 1. So on the downbeat is when we hit the A. Then we continue with just straight eighth notes beyond that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. That tritone right there is actually on the downbeat of the next measure. So that's going to land on 1. So that is extremely strong, okay? So you got to make that strong. So it comes in syncopated after the fact. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that is the very last part of that measure. So you're not going to go here, you're going to skip down to the fourth fret that time and hit right on the downbeat for that one. 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And that next time when you come back around, you're going to hit the fifth fret on the A and the D as the downbeat once again. So you're switching it around a whole bunch of times. And because of the way Lars is playing the drums with that really fast, almost polka style thrash beat, everything is on the upbeat, all right? All of the snare drums are on the up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and alright? Now it can maybe seem like that it's on the downbeat, but it's not on the downbeat. They're all on the upbeats, and you have to keep that rhythm going steady and perfect the entire time, alright? So let's get through this riff one more time slowly, and I'll explain the function of the chords as we move as well. So we start on 1, which is the E minor. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, A. That's the 4 chord. Back to the 1, 4, 1 chord, 4. That's a pivot. That F sharp is actually the 5 chord, but we never go to the B minor. Alright, so that's a little trick that I'm going to explain a little later. The chorus goes to B minor, but here we're just hitting that F sharp as if it's the 2 chord, but it's not, because we hit 2 chords that are in the key of B minor. These are also in the key of E minor, but it becomes apparent that we switch keys later on. So I'm going to say we're going temporarily to B minor right here with this F sharp, 5 chord. 2, 3, 4, and the G would basically be a flat 6 with a major 7th. So a G major 7th chord, you would have known. A little bit jazzy for a thrash metal song, but hey, what the hell. So I half misspoke on that last part. I said that the B minor progression was going to come in later in the song, but by later I meant immediately right now. So effectively, after we play through that whole thrash progression twice, the ending tags this little thing on. So it's B, G, A, G, F sharp, with a nice hard stop at the end there. Let's take a look at the chords. B is 1, G is flat 6, A is flat 7, G back to flat 6, and then the F sharp is the 5 chord like we discussed before. And that F sharp stops for 1 full measure to give us a little bit of breather in between, and then we hit this pre-verse riff. This is the setup to the verse, which is slightly different, but we'll go over both parts at the end of the day. Anyway, here's the pre-verse. I think this one takes the cake for my all-time favorite Metallica riff. Not just on Master of Puppets, all time. It's that good. Let's check out how to play it. We We start off at the 6th fret, a power chord on the E string, okay? So just right there, all right? Now this is basically the flatted 5th. This is a tritone away from our original note, E. So this is pretty evil right off the gate. We're starting off with a B flat, all right? So already diabolical, and we didn't even start it. Now that slides really quickly into the 3rd fret, which is a G. So we're going B flat, G, right into the open E. Almost sounds like a prototypical Rammstein song when you play it slowly. But we're not playing it like that, we're playing it much faster and much more adeptly. Oh yeah. Isn't that the best? Man, that's one of the greatest riffs I've ever heard. Anyway, let's actually learn how to do it. So, you're going to slide in with the first pick like this. And then you're going to go 2E and 3 and 4E. So, 2E and 3 and 4E. 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 Alright, so when you do that 3 times, you got to switch the last one to go like this. Now it's a little hard to hear that. I actually didn't know it went down to an F. I thought it just kept going down to the 3rd fret, but apparently we have to go 8th to the 1st fret, which is F. So we're actually going now tritone to the flat 2, which, as I explained before, is an incredibly heavy interval, which needs to go back to E immediately. Watch. And it almost gives you the illusion that you're actually holding that chord out a little bit longer because you're palm muting right before you get off. Watch. So you gotta hang on just that extra moment before coming back into E. So let's play just that slow. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and. Very awesome. The second time around basically does the same thing all the way through again. We have a little stop. Not really a stop, but a hold that we need to contend with. Watch this. Ready? Woo! And then we come right back in. So that hold is on B flat for a measure of 2/4. That's right. A time change right in the middle of there. And it's just enough time to give us a breather. Very, very, very clever. I love the way Metallica puts in alternate time signatures in the most perfect way. It never feels awkward or like a math project or, you know, just thrown in there for the sake of it just because, oh, look how fancy we are. No, no, no. It has a function. It has a compositional purpose that keeps us engaged throughout the entire song. Alright? It doesn't feel difficult to understand or like a foreign concept that only, you know, the elites are allowed to know. No, 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 no. Remember what I've said about Cliff Burton before. He gives the high status aristocracy stuff to the masses, alright? And he always does that, even if he didn't write the riff. Which I'm not sure if he wrote the riff or not, I'll be honest with you. In the comments section you can tell me who wrote the riff. Since we already went over the slidey riff, we can touch upon what happens after the fact. We go through the first half just like the pre-verse. Ready? Okay, so all that is exactly the same. Now in the second half, we go through the first half of the previous section, which is just the B flat to G, do it 3 times. 3. And then we add this. Alright, so that's the 10th fret of the E going down to the 6th fret of the E. Very tight palm muted 16th notes. You want to make sure you're really getting in there with precision accuracy, like you're a drummer playing a snare drum. Or a heavy artillery raining fire all over your ass, okay? So basically what we have to do there is go from the 10th fret to the 6th fret. That's D to B flat. Now I'm going to say that this might be a modulation to the key of D minor real quickly. Now the reason why I'm saying that is because of how James Hetfield's vocal interacts with everything going on with these progressions. Now believe it or not, there is a progression going on, and yes, James Hetfield does follow along melodically pretty damn well. Let's listen to how this goes.
Digging up the agony within, touching on and no one's gonna get it, living underneath conformity, dying on the beat.
the vocal line here is actually incredibly melodic and pulls off the melody basically as well as any of the Beatles could have done it. The first line follows right along with the E minor, okay, or the E diminished that we can say, and goes like this. Dealing out the agony within. Pretty much textbook right there. The second phrase is where we have our first melodic play with the chord changes. Charging hard and no one's gonna give in. You see, when I hit that B flat, that F becomes the perfect fifth, which is usually the flat 2 of the E, but it's a perfect fifth. It creates a power chord, and then the F down at the bottom is just the root. So pretty awesome. It plays right along melodically with what's going on. So here we go. Pretty awesome. And if you just isolate the B flat going to the F, it sounds pretty happy. Dun, dun, until we hit that last note, of course. Now, the third line that comes around just deals with the same thing as the first line did. Living on your knees, conformity. So that's exactly the same as the first line. And then this last line is where we have that D minor modulation. So let me show you what happens there. Dying on your feet for honesty. You hear how it plays along with both the D right here. It would be the root note of the first one, which sounds like that. And then on the B flat, it becomes the major third. So, beautifully melodic. Like I said, it's almost as good as what the Beatles can come up with. But guess what? The Beatles weren't in a thrash metal band either. So I think Metallica gets the edge on this. After all these years listening to this, I never realized the amount of melodic content that there was within this song. I was always under the impression that it was just yelling in key and it just happened to sound good. I didn't realize the level of sophistication, until now of course. And hopefully you all feel the same after that as well. Let's get into the chorus section, which follows along some familiar parts that we've already done. This chorus simply brings back those longer power chords from before, but elongated and in a slightly different context. Goes in right here. That was the first change. And then back to the original context. Now, let me explain what happened there. We go through the same chords. B, G, A, G. F sharp, but for 2 full measures. Alright, you gotta do 2 full measures on those 16th notes to make way for what James Hetfield is doing, basically, right? Blood will follow blood. Dying time is there. And then we stop and make way for Damage Incorporated, the beautifully whispered line from James Hetfield. Anyway, right after that chorus, we come back into that James Hetfield intro, or the first harsh section of the song, and we bring this back, but half as long. And then right back into the verse right there. So let's just explain that real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We basically cut off an entire half of the first intro part, which brings back the idea nicely and doesn't bore us by playing the same thing twice. Metallica are the masters of doing that. Taking the same riff, changing it slightly just to fit that part of the song and bring something familiar. And then change it to bring it back to something that is also familiar. So all this stuff is just masterfully done, especially these transition bits. And I just love those quarter notes in there. It's like getting hit with the head with a hammer 1,000,000 times, except it's just 8 times. You only want to get hit in the hammer 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like Barney Rubble's wife hitting him in the head with a frying pan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Frying pans to the top of the head, so you got a big old egg bird on the top right there. Alright, anyway, let's get into verse 2, since that frying pan egg bird Barney Rubble leads us right into verse 2, which is basically exactly the same, just like this. Oh yeah. Love playing this riff. Once again, I love this. Then we hit chorus 2. Now before going to chorus 2, which I sounded a little overexcited about before, I must admit, let's go over this vocal line that James Hetfield says in verse 2, and tell me if you can make heads or tails of it.
Slamming through the fuck with Razorback!
Slamming through, don't fuck with Razorback. Now, what on earth is a Razorback? I know I could probably Google it, but I'd rather have you, the audience, tell me what on earth a Razorback is. What is it, and why should I not fuck with it? Okay? It sounds almost like an unused villain from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. Razorback is back in town, and he's gonna destroy you slime balls. Now let's finally get onto chorus 2. I know we already went over the chorus riff from before, but let's give James Hetfield's vocals a little bit more attention.
I will follow the night time in there! Incorporated.
The reason why I wanted to point this out is because James is only singing one note, one static note on top of the moving chords, which creates some very interesting and colorful harmony along the way. These are all F sharps, so on top of a B, an F sharp is the perfect fifth. Once we change to a G, that F sharp becomes a major seventh, a very nice change. Beautiful sounding chord. I wish it were going slower, but it's not. Once we hit the A, it's a sixth, all right? So as we're moving, this F sharp changes contextual context. That sounded really dumb, by the way. Harmonic context. I'm gonna say it right this time. We are changing harmonic context in a proper manner. That's right. I can speak proper English, right? So then we do that again. We have F sharp on top of B, perfect fifth, G major seventh, A the sixth, G major seventh once again, and then once we hit the F sharp chord, guess what? It's the root. Sounds almost final. Blood will follow blood, dying time is healed, Damage Incorporated. Enough of that. The only other thing we have to mention about chorus 2 is that there's a slight change at the very ending, alright? So I'm going to play it through. Blood will follow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dying time is dead. All that's the same, but now we got to add an extra measure of X sharp after, or F sharp after that stop. Watch. And then I don't want to spoil the bridge, but it goes right into the bridge. So you just have to add an extra measure of F sharp with the 16th notes after the stop. All right? So it's stop, 2, 3, 4, right into the bridge. And that bridge section gets us into another nasty riff. A really, really, really excellent riff. Another one of my favorites here. And very tricky to play as well. So let's see what the first 4 rounds of that gives to us. The main reason why I included the drums here are because they are critically important to the section. Those hits and that rhythm and those stops make up the entire backbone of this whole thing. Obviously, Kirk is playing that lead part, but the drums set up all that space in between, right? So, without all that tension and that release that happens with that fill at the end, you don't really have much of a part. Honestly, it would be kind of boring if it just went right in. All these stops really, 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 really set the tone and give a sense of dynamic destruction for us to behold. Now, Kirk's lead part is where all the action is, and that's where these notes are played. Very tricky. So let's go over that section by section. The first part repeats 3 separate times. We're just starting on the open E like this. 1 and 2 E ands, alright? So we're kind of riding from the 7th fret of the A down to the open again. 2 E ands. okay? Octaves on the E, so. And that's the 1, that's just the root. Now, the next note is F to D. All separated by eighth notes there. So 1 and 2 and Alright, you can do all down picks for that. Alright, now the next measure, we come in with this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Alright, so that B flat landing right on beat 4 like it did earlier, alright? This goes along and kind of continues the same idea that Lars was putting forth with the, right, with that fill just before. It's the exact rhythm. Now, the interesting part about this is that it's mostly eighth notes with short bursts of sixteenths in between. On the first measure, we have the 16th burst on beat 2. Right? Everything else is just eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. On the second measure, however, we kind of flip it around, and the first beat gets a 16th burst, and the third beat does as well. Watch. So in total, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Boom. Just like those drum fill rhythms were before. Now, all in all, this is basically a Phrygian idea, okay? So we're hitting the root, which is an E, that's 1, going to F, that is a flat 2. And remember, I talked about the flat 2 quite a bit already. It's a very heavy and high weight interval, alright? Wants to come down to that 1 almost immediately. And the D is the flat 7. Those are all Phrygian modes, okay? Or Phrygian notes. Now, until we hit the B flat, it's all Phrygian. But once we hit that B flat, it turns those notes into a Lydian sequence. If you were to play a D on top of a B flat, it's a major third. If you play an E, it's a sharp 4th. And if you play an F, it's a 5th. So once you change the context like that, it sounds kind of goofy. Almost sounds like we're playing a song by the Tubes or something, but we're not. We're playing Damage Inc. by Metallica. So once again, oh yeah. Woo! Now that, oh, I messed that up. Let's go over that anyway. I gotta go over it for myself here. Now this next part is basically the same idea. It's almost the same rhythm, but we have to do a different type of sequence. Here we're changing it to a strict Phrygian sequence that goes down the E minor scale proper. So we go like this. And instead of landing on a B flat, we land on a B at the end. So we go same rhythm, E, F, D, E, C, D, B. And that rhythm has to remain consistent. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right on the 5 chord at the end. See, all it takes is a little bit of practice. I messed it up just 2 seconds ago, but that time I got it down perfectly. And I'm going to get it down perfectly every single time from this point forward. I can guarantee it. Those 8 measures make up the basis for what will happen through the repetitions of this bridge, which essentially turns into a halftime groove coming in on the next part. So we're actually slowing it down after seeming like we're going to speed up again. Watch this. This halftime groove gives us a nice break from the harsh reality of the thrash sections, and also introduces another rhythm guitar part on the bottom. It's a very simple part, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. You want to hit that chord on beat 4 every time. And you're following along with what the lead is doing, okay? The first 3 times you're on B flat, going to E, and the last time you're on B, going to E. Those held out E chords help to give some context to the notes that Kirk is playing up above. Those E's, F's, D's, or 1s, flat 2s, and flat 7s, now have a harmonic basis. Right? So everything can be heard and felt on top of that harmonic bed. All in all, this bridge section moves through 3 separate times with 3 separate approaches, okay? That's 3 different parts on one section. So, once again, a lot of versatility from the Metallica boys. The first one is starting off with the hits. Lars, go! Right? Lars, go! Alright, so that whole section is set up with those hits, all the space in between, and Lars just banging away so that we know what's up. The second part goes into a mean halftime groove with that rhythm. 3, 4, 1, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom. Oh! Alright, so that slows it down a little bit, makes it a little more diabolical. And it kind of gives us a break, but also lays on the load a little bit heavier that time around. Now, the third time we come along to the bridge, we're basically adding vocals on the top, all right? And James is rambling about chewing, spitting, and screaming and shouting. It's getting a little weird in here, so I think we're going to have to move on to the next part. The first half of the guitar solo has a unique rhythm part, and it's only unique in the sense that it only happens one time in the song, and that's under the first half of the guitar solo, of course. It's 16th note bursts non-stop, okay, on E, before going to another note, F sharp. Now, on the onset it sounds pretty boring, and it is, because it's only one note static the entire way before changing, and the same rhythm too, just like that the entire time, and it's pretty funny, honestly, when you keep playing it like that. But there is a certain amount of times that we have to count it, so we're going to do that. We start off with that first E going 7 full times, and then on the 8th measure we continue with E, and then go up to an F, right up to an F sharp, to just repeat the same exact thing with a slightly different variation at the end. But here, watch this. Let's count that through. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See how on that 4th measure, not the 4th measure, the 4th beat, I hit an F right at the end? That leads us into an F sharp. Or guess what? We're going to do 7 more measures of that. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 7, and then this. That's just basically going 2, 3, 4, 5. Chromatically up, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, which will then lead back to the original riff we played at the beginning of the song after Cliff's intro, like this. But that's after doing this for those 16 bars, alright? So your hand is going to be incredibly tired after you're done with this, okay? So let's do all of that slowly. Actually, you know what? Let's do all of it full speed. Ready? 1, 2, starting on E, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you get the point. That next part goes on to repeat again. Alright, so we play that whole riff 2 times before finally entering this again. Not entering Sandman. Alright, and we'll get to that variation that happens right there after we're done with the solo. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the guitar solo. Now I'm going to split this up into 9 separate parts because it's quite lengthy and we have to make sense out of this, correct? So let's listen to the first 4-bar phrase of the guitar solo. Believe it or not, there were only 3 notes being used for 99% of this lick. We start up on the 15th fret of the high E string going 15, 14, 12 like this. You almost want to flutter them, almost as if you're coming down and then coming back up a little bit, but very subtly. A subtle flutter, if you will. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so 2 full measures of doing that exact rhythm. All tremolo picking, 16th notes, and we're going 15, 14, 12. That's the flat third, the second, and the root. Alright, so a me, re, do, or a minor figaro. Figaro. Alright, now we continue to do that exact same thing, but we're halving the amount of times that we come down and come up. So here we're actually hanging on the 15th for a little bit longer until we go back to full speed. So we're actually just doing that half time twice. It's not really half time, but it's half the amount of times that you go down. You know what I'm saying. So, alright, and then you do a nice bend on the 15th fret like that, nice vibrato. Ready, one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, half. And then with that nice bend at the end there. So a very repetitive motion, not too much going on. It's literally 3 notes until you hit that last bend. Let's get on to the next 4 bars, which has a more fluttery approach, if you will. You see what I mean by fluttery? There's some mini trills that are thrown in there that we have to contend with. I'll play it slowly first. Very triumphant toward the end there. So we start up on the 14th fret of the high E going to 17 and then eventually the 15th. So, and back down to the 14th. Then we do the flutter, our first flutter, 15 to 14th. Alright, so that's a double pull off. So, then we come down to the 17th, 14th, and then immediately do a flutter like this, 17, 14, 15, 14. Watch. Alright? And then dipping down to the 16th fret of the G string. So, flutter, flutter. You always put a double flutter in there. And then we do this. So that's a double flutter on just the G. 16, 14 twice. Slide to the 13th, and then this. Until eventually we reach the 14th fret of the D string, which is the E. That's our root. Ready? Nice and slow. Double flutter, double flutter, double flutter. And then we have this little thing, this repetitive motion. Now basically you got to take your ring finger and come up and play this pattern. That's 14, 13, and 11. All pull-offs with downstrokes. Alright, so all that at the same time here. Now the other interesting thing about this is that we're starting off in an E minor scale until we hit the C sharp right here. Alright, now that note is the natural 6th. I've talked about this before. That's called the Dorian mode, when you have a minor scale with a natural 6th. Alright? Alright, which then comes right into there. Now, the other interesting thing is that on the bottom half of this, that's a G sharp. Alright, so we're dipping into E major for that bottom part. Now, ordinarily that would be very strange, but we're preparing to go into the key of F sharp minor, which does have a G sharp in it. So this E major could actually be seen as a pivot flat 7 that goes into an F sharp minor. That G sharp appears naturally, and so does the F sharp within the key of F sharp minor, right? That's the flat third, the 2, and the 1. instead of being an E major sus4, we're actually anticipating an F sharp minor move, which is kind of genius actually on Kurt's part. Kirk's part, not Kurt. What, Kirk Cobain? Kirk Hammett? What the hell kind of trouble am I getting into here? The next section represents a continuation of that same pull-off idea. We just extend it and within the key of F sharp minor. So enjoy. This section really reminds me of a horse race, but a horse race in F sharp minor, of course. Starting off on the 16th fret of the D string with those same pull-off ideas. 3 notes. Very nice melodic sound, and it really does remind me of a bunch of horses galloping down a lane. Especially when you speed up. Now, the way to get it faster is by doing all downstrokes like this and letting the left hand take over everything else. Now, you're going to have to do a double pull-off from the 16th fret to the 14th to the 13th, like that. That's like doing a sus4 on the F sharp minor to a flat third to a second, alright? And you really want to make sure you're literally pulling off the strings. Just like that. Do the same exact deal, but this time on the 18th fret. The 18th fret. Wow, unbelievable. So, and then you come and alternate back to the original one. Also notice, I'm changing fingers as well. Ring finger on the first one, then middle finger to make way for the ring finger again. But I'm always using the same 3 fingers to do those pull-offs. Alright, so, there's that bird. That's a horse, a man about a horse with a bird and a horse. Just imagine that. Imagine a horse going crazy, losing complete control over everything in his life, just like many of us have, but that's okay. It's a horse we're talking about here. The horse is going to be okay. Now we come off that reverse gallop with something that sounds almost like it's a Ride the Lightning throwback, and you'll see what I mean when I start playing it. It's got that nice bluesy pentatonic feel, but it also has that triple pull-off that we have grown to love so much from Ride the Lightning. So, you see that? We got a triple pull-off going from the 17th to the 14th, and by the way, we're in F sharp minor pentatonic right now, so you got 2 bends, and then the pull-off, dipping down to the 16th, coming back up. Then we have the triple pull. 17, 14, 17, 14, 17, 14, right? And you gotta make sure you get that clean. And it's played incredibly quickly, so you have to make sure you get it fast as well. So clean and fast. Immediately following that, we play something that Randy Rhoads would be playing on this, and it's a chromatic minor third ascension going up the B string, and we go like this. All alternate picking, tremolo picking 16ths like this. We start off at the 10th fret with the ring, pointer at the 7th, and we go like that. And then we go here. It gets more dissonant as you move. Hear how it starts to sound worse and worse as we start to play things that don't make any sense at all, until of course we get back up to the top. Some of those are consonant, but we're really just starting on a B minor 7, but that's completely irrelevant in this context because we're in F sharp minor. And I think it just sounds cool when you move up things fast chromatically. Oh yeah, of course it sounds cool. One more time. One more time, but faster. One more time for Randy. Whoa! Don't do that bend at the end. Let's hear the next part, which is probably the most melodic portion of the solo. But yeah, check it out. We start off with a set of unison bends on the 15th fret of the B and the 12th of the E. The 12th of the E is going to stay static, the 15th is going to be bent like that. Okay, you're hitting the same note with the 15th fret bent as you would with the static 12th fret, which is an E, by the way, and that is the root note of our progression. So we're going to go like this. the amount of times you hit that is very important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then pull to the 12th, and then hold the melodic note there. Now, the 13th fret right here is actually a C. Well, what chord are we hitting underneath? We're hitting an A. Well, that C is the minor third of that progression, so that's pretty cool. So, hitting the nice minor third on the A minor. Perfect. We then continue and we hop up this. So that's more melodic stuff. This almost looks like a D chord shape because we're coming up to a D, F sharp, G, and A. That's when the Saints go marching in. Woo! Oh yeah, the train's coming in. Yeah, so the train's coming into town. New Orleans is popping, bustling with business, and we're ready to get some Creole dining here. But we gotta learn this solo first. Stop messing around. Stop distracting me, all right? So we come up to the 15th, we slide up, and we hit all of those notes in that order, eventually coming to a melodic G. All right, now that's a flat 7th on top of the A. Not as melodic as the flatted 3rd, but hey, it works anyway. And it's actually more in line with that Creole style, that flat 7 blues, right? So real slow. Continuing with phrase number 6, Kirk gives us some more fluttery type of ideas. The iron flutter by with Kirk that got a Vegeta, if you know what I'm saying. These 4 bars reinforce some older ideas that we've already grown accustomed to in this solo. Coming right off that melodic bit previously, we do this. Very nice, actually. Watch that. You recognize some of those flutters? Well, we're flutter buying here, baby. We're going Inagata-Davida style on this. Check this out. 14, 15, 17, 15, 14. And then the flutter from 15 to 14, a very nice flutter. Then we come here, just like we did before, 17, 14, 15, 14. So double flutter. Now here, instead of going to the 16th to the 14th fret that we did before, we hit the 16th to the 15th, and then we jump all the way up to the 17th fret of the E string. Sounds like something Alex Lifeson would play in a Disney movie. Or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or something. But it is a B minor 7th chord, which I do think Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is that. Anyway, enough wasting time. We do that shape, and then we resolve on that A, which is actually on the 14th fret of the G. So let me play that slow again. It's a very cool thing. I really enjoy playing that. And then we just hop right into F sharp minor pentatonic mode once again with these 16 bend. And then a nice little blues thing at the end. Let me play that slowly for you. Ready? And you have to count that just as many times as it's being played, okay? So counting is very important here. 1, 2, 3, 4, So basically 5 times before you got to do that nice bend, pull off, and a lot of vibrato on that top note as well, because then it prepares us to get into this next section, which also has another familiar lick in it, but it's almost as if Kirk Hammett took a time machine into the future and then came back here to play it on top of this song. See if you know what I mean. Doesn't that first part kind of sound like the beginning to the Enter Sandman solo? It's pretty incredible how you can take basically the same idea and put it on a different context and have it sound completely different. Now let's get into what's actually happening. We have some double stop bends, 14th fret of the G, 15th of the B, and we're doing this. So you want to make sure you're bending, unbending, then bend, bend, unbend, unbend. So that's very crucial for that, the rhythm. It's all about the rhythm here, and it's also all about the wah pedal as well. I haven't mentioned that there's a wah pedal on this solo. Well, Oh well, now you know, alright? It's better late than never, okay? So, wah, 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 wah. Make sure you're playing with that exact rhythm right there. That then connects right into a very familiar idea which happened at the beginning of the solo. Can you believe that? It's actually the ending of the first lick that we heard, alright? We're actually going the halftime first. 1, 2, oh! With that same exact bend at the very end. So, one more time, let me play all that for you. Boom, boom, boom! That little tremolo bit then prepares us for the climax of the Damage Incorporated solo. Now that is a brutal amount of tremolo picking that we have to get through in order to do this 8th pass through the guitar solo. Now, we're starting up on an E, and we're just heading up a natural minor scale. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. And that'll take you to the end of that part, where we then descend on even more ridiculous, fluttering tremolo picking. Check this out. It's almost as if you're doing this type of rhythm. It's like a John Bonham fill, but with Lars playing it. But Kirk is playing it with his right hand. Check this out. And that's the kind of feeling that you want to have. You want to have a spastic Bugs Bunny running away from Yosemite Sam who's trying to shoot him in the back of the head with a goddamn rifle. Alright? So you're basically going from the 21st fret and chromatically down until you finally hit the 10th fret. Alright, so that's a long way to go. 21 to 10. 2110. Is that a Rush album? I don't know. And basically, you want to make it as if you're pretending that you're ending on that 7th fret. Alright? Slow one more time. And then slide out of it. And then if you want, you can join in with the chords. Just like that. And then we got to get into the final lick of the solo, which isn't very difficult and requires some more cacophonic catastrophe that we need to endure. Oh, you stupid rabbit! Like this! All that's happening here is a very simple tapping sequence, alright? You're basically just holding down the 10th and the 7th like this with the ring and the pointer. And you're just pulling off repeatedly, but in between, you're putting that 12th fret tap right on the beginning. Watch. Do that twice, now go to the 13th. Now go to the 14th. Now go to the 15th. Now go to the 16th. 17th. 18th. And then, boom. Alright, like a big dumb idiot at the end there. Ready? See how stupid that is? It's just like that Randy Rhoads style lick that we had before. The chromatic stuff going up by half steps actually sounds pretty cool because it sounds chaotic and very quickly. When it's played quickly, it sounds a lot cooler. But we basically have this B minor 7, a diminished chord going to a minor chord. That's basically, what is that? F sharp minor? Something like that. Yeah, it's an F sharp minor. And then it goes to a D major chord. Alright, now we're starting to sound like the 1 solo. And then we go here. That sounds a lot like Hangar 18. That's because you're getting into that natural 6 territory. Flat 7, that's F sharp minor 7. And then we won't speak of that. And we'll never speak of it ever again. Wow, what a solo by Mr. Kirk Hammett. Not hamster, Hammett. So many different techniques. Very, 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 very fast. And he had to follow along with Lars' drumming during this part, which is no easy task. And that thrash riff on the bottom is so quick, it's so hard to get precise. So it makes it even harder to get the lead on top to be precise as well. So you kind of just have to feel it out and hope for the best. But hopefully with my guidance, the rhythms, the notes, all of the phrasings will come easy to you, or at least a little bit more easy for you. Alright? With that said, let's move into the second bridge that comes in right after we're done. instead of blasting through an F-sharp, barn burner, razorback fuck, the Metallica boys decide to bring us into a unique variation on that F-sharp. Or I should say a unique variation on F-sharp, G, G-sharp, and A. I'm dead serious. It goes like this. It's almost like the motor breath rhythm from Kill 'Em All. We're basically just hitting F-sharp, power chord, a syncopated 16th thing, and slightly slowed down and exaggerated as well. Metallica loves to do stuff like this, particularly Lars. He likes to slow down a rhythm just for one particular section and then bring it back to that blistering tempo. But we're basically like this. Just follow along with the track and you'll understand what I mean. It's not completely in time, and if you were to put this to a metronome, you'd look like a fool. Alright, so this is meant to be felt out in a more meaningful way. Now these chords actually appear in the rhythm guitar of the solo. So, remember that? That little stupid chromatic thing that only happened once? Well, guess what? It happens twice. And I'm not sure if this was conscious, but it's in there. And that brings us right into the second bridge riff, which largely remains the same, except we're now in that polka thrash beat once again. Alright, so Lars is playing much faster this time around. Everything's largely the same, except there is an extra chord that's thrown into the mix. So the first time we're going to hit a B flat, and then we're going to alternate and go to a D. Alright, so before it was all B flats, now we're going to hit a D as the second one, and then we go back to B flat as the third, okay? And you really want to accent that as well. You want to give it all the power on that beat. Watch this, ready? B flat. D. Whoa. B flat. And then the same thing basically goes for that last part, but it's just very interesting. Let me play that one more time for you. B flat, D flat, and that segues perfectly back into our chorus bit, or at least half of the chorus section. So that's really cool that they were able to do that. They're able to connect two parts that are completely different, just like that. Now this also harkens back to the verse idea, right? Because we're in that fast thrash mode, and we're actually hitting those same two chords that are represented by those two fast 16th blips on the 10th and the 6th fret, remember? Remember when I said that that's a temporary switch to D minor or modulation? Well, I think that's happening here. Right? D to B flat. Same two chords, and I'm not sure that that's a total coincidence. It does sound awesome, and it is intuitive to play that there, right? It is part of the pattern. But I don't know, I feel like they did that completely intentionally, alright? I just had this feeling that that's what was going on, but even if it's not, big whoop, it's still awesome. And then that last part just, bam, B, B, double B, right into that part. It's almost like fate and destiny that was supposed to happen. Now, that last F sharp, we don't have a break after that. Usually we do. Here we just go straight through. 1, 2, 3, 4, right in to the verse. The final verse of the song. Now verse 3, we have a little bit of drumming that we have to put a magnifying glass over, alright? And it can be a very coarse magnifying glass as well, because it's pretty obvious what Lars is doing here. Check it out. That's right, Lars is doing his best Dave Lombardo impression. At a very fast tempo, I must say. Natural sounding double bass all the way through that third verse. And by the way, that third verse happens again, but with double bass, which is a slight little change that keeps it interesting. I can't stress that enough, how Metallica are masters of taking the same part, adding something kind of subtle. In this case, it's not so subtle, but it is definitely very different. Double bass on verse 3, who would have thought? We're already going fast enough. To add up is insane. And he decided to do it, and I gotta say, it sounds pretty awesome. But the coolness doesn't stop there with Lars. We got one more thing we gotta hear. It's a completely erratic and spastic fill. It's almost like he lost complete control over his body, like Animal from the Muppets. Whatever it is, it doesn't even sound good, but you know what? It doesn't sound good if you play it in a vacuum. But if you listen to it within the song, it sounds awesome, it feels awesome, and I wouldn't have it any other way. We move through the chorus exactly the same as we normally would, but we hit yet another variation at the end. How many variations are we going to have, guys? It's been an unbelievable journey so far with the amount of variations with this song, and let alone that, the whole album has been crazy, alright? Variation after variation. But here's the chorus. Ready? The same. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the change. And then we stop. Now all that's happening there is basically a triplet rhythm with a palm mute hard and heavy on that first beat. Alright, you want to make sure it's hard and heavy on just that first one. Then the next one you want to release it. Make it nice and loud and proud and free. Ready? Hard, free, free, hard, free, free, hard, free, free, hard, free, free. Damage Incorporated. And that's the final Damage Incorporated of the song. But let's play this part one more time nice and slow. Watch, ready? Damage Incorporated, which then leads to this final part. That's all the same rhythm right there, just E, F, 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 F. But instead of just touching the F and coming back to E, we stay on the F at the very end. We're landing and ending this entire album on a flatted 2. Unresolved, all of the weight of that giant hammer coming down and crashing into your reality, breaking those vistas that you never thought existed in your mind before. And guess what? It's going to stay there forever. The ghosts of the past, the ghosts of the future, the ghosts of the present. James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett, joining forces to end on an F. And it's not like a major key F, it's a flat 2 that is desperately yearning to go to E, alright? There's just a sense of incompleteness there. But you know what? It's perfect for an album such as this. To end Master of Puppets in a way that is so heavy that they don't even resolve it is excellent. And guess what? No other way would work. No other way would work. You think you can find another way that's going to work? That's convincing enough for me? I don't know. Fat chance. Anyway, thank you so much for coming along this journey. If you would like to further support the channel, please go to www.subscribestar.com/RomanOva Music, where you could pledge any amount of money you want per month. Alright, these monthly subscriptions and donations will help me do more of this stuff. This is incredibly time-consuming work, and it takes a lot of energy to get behind a camera and do all this nonsense and act like a buffoon for all you people, okay? And also to learn all the songs. This is also highly educational content. I feel like there's a lot of value to it, and I'm just going to keep adding more and more as time goes on, but definitely need those donations. Whatever amount you can give. The $20 option will give you access to the RomanOva Guitar Gym, which is basically a cumulative series of videos, which is completely exclusive to that tier. Alright, so far we got a whole bunch of them, and we're just going to have a whole bunch more. So imagine a giant stack of videos that only you're going to get with your $20 a month. Unbelievable. I feel like I'm one of those guys telling you to call an 800 number. Well, guess what? This is toll free here. You can just go to the site, put all your information in, say, yeah, I'm going to give Mike $100 a day. How about that, huh? That's an even better one. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to get that greedy. Anyway, thanks so much for coming along once again. We have made it through the end of Master of Puppets, and It is a sad day. And with that said, I'm going to go into a corner and be sad that there's no more Master of Puppets to do. Actually, I have to go and edit this video together, so that's a lot more tears than even I'm going to cry now. I'm going to cry out all the tears in the corner from being done, and then be completely dry and dehydrate myself with even more tears that I didn't even know I had trying to do the rest of this work. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.